American Border Patrol has been working on the Arizona-Mexico border for 10 years. As a nonprofit 501c3 corporation, it gets its support directly from the American people. The following is a collection of reports of ABP's activity on the border beginning in mid-2002. Each of the stories shown here first appeared as a daily feature of the American Patrol Report. For more details, go to the Past Features link on this website and navigate to the date of the story that interests you. Operations of American Border Patrol began in Sierra Vista, Arizona in 2002. Word began to spread. In July, the Arizona Daily Star ran a poll amongst its readers of what it thought of the idea of an American patrol, an American Border Patrol. 96% said they liked the idea. The local Sierra Vista newspaper said, one California-led group's plans for a modern-day high-tech vigilante posse are misguided and perilous. As you will see in later stories, the newspaper changed its mind about ABP after watching it operate. When ABP held an open house in Sierra Vista, it received support from the father of slain Park Ranger Chris Egley. Our border is out of control, he said. You are helping to bring attention to this and the reform which is needed. Glenn Spencer, founder of ABP, appeared on KUAT-TV in Tucson to explain the goals of the organization. The American Border Patrol is a combination of a border think tank and neighborhood watch, Spencer told public television host Bill Buckmaster. Interest in ABP spread to the PBS program The News Hour with Jim Lara. Here, reporter Ted Robbins spent 4 hours with Spencer. ABP used volunteers it calls Hawkeyes to seek out and report suspected border intruders, or SBIs. The goal was not to enforce the law, but to document the problem. ABP adopted the term suspected border intruder as more appropriate than illegal alien or undocumented. In November, Glenn Spencer appeared on the MSNBC show The Donahue Show out of New York. Others on the show included rancher Roger Barnett and Pat Buchanan. During the show, Spencer held up a ground sensor as the type of technology ABP planned to use on the border. Following a flurry of publicity about American Border Patrol, Chris Simcox, owner of the Tombstone Telegraph, announced that he would form a local militia to combat illegal immigration. In 2002, ABP had developed a mobile system for sending video over the internet. It was used to send live pictures of suspected border intruders. In early 2003, ABP upgraded the system for better performance. Many border crossers do so under the cloak of darkness. In keeping with its goal of employing high tech on the border, ABP acquired a $13,000 Palm IR 250 to enhance its capability to record this activity. It wasn't long before the Palm IR 250 was put to work. On February 26th, ABP sent live images over the internet of a ranch being overrun by suspected border intruders. On March 2nd, ABC TV sent a crew from Phoenix to report on ABP's nighttime operations. By transmitting these images across the country, the American Border Patrol hopes to spark action, the reporter told her audience. American Border Patrol began deploying ground sensors based on geophones used in oil exploration technology. Mike King showed here, developed the circuitry, amplifiers, transmitters, and receivers that allowed these sensors to work remotely in the desert. As part of its overall plan, American Border Patrol began testing its own design of an unmanned aerial vehicle, or drone. ABP was upset that Reuters referred to it as a vigilante. CNN found out about ABP's Border Hawk UAV, or a spy plane, and reported on it to its viewers. As we said, CNN's Erica Hill reported, American Border Patrol is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Spencer says the group is not a militia. His group doesn't stop anyone. It simply documents and reports what it sees. We just thought the way they did it was kinda cool. 2 days after the CNN report, MSNBC sent a satellite truck to the border to see for themselves. ABP launched the Border Hawk on cue, and it sent live video of the border over the MSNBC network. It worked flawlessly for the Lester Holt Live program. Right after the MSNBC report, the head of the Department of Homeland Security announced that the government would have UAVs on the border by the end of the year. DHS had never mentioned the use of UAVs on the border until the American Border Patrol showed how it could be done. ABP continued to advance the development of the Border Hawk UAV program. In this video screen grab, you can see Border Hawk 1-2. The video was taken from Border Hawk 1-1 flying above. Hearing of the Border Hawk's prowess, the U.S. Army sent a team of officers and engineers to see a demonstration. The Border Hawk did everything they asked of it. Later, ABP learned a contract went to another organization that eventually went bankrupt. American Border Patrol is a non-profit corporation. Tax-deductible donations may be made at www.americanborderpatrol.com. ABP used its ground sensors to good effect. In this instance, sensors picked up suspicious activity in the San Pedro River, and ABP's cameras moved into position to send live video of the intruders out over the internet. The U.S. Border Patrol was called, however, ABP was unaware if these people were apprehended. The Border Hawk UAV program advanced into night flights using an infrared camera. A TV crew came to the border and documented a night mission as it unfolded. To demonstrate the vulnerability to terrorists, ABP personnel fashioned a simulated weapon of mass destruction and moved it from the Mexico border into Tucson, under the cloak of darkness. They followed the San Pedro River for 4 miles before meeting their, quote, load vehicle. The San Pedro River is a major smuggling corridor. Border intruders oftentimes use mountain passes in the Huachuca Mountains south of Sierra Vista. To demonstrate this problem, ABP positioned a mobile internet camera in one of these high passes, above 7,000 feet. The ABP team didn't have to wait long before groups of suspected border intruders approached from below. All of this was sent out live over the internet. ABP operates off a ranch right on the Mexican border, but its mailing address is in Sierra Vista. You can send a tax-deductible donation to this address. In January 2005, American Border Patrol moved to a ranch directly on the Mexico border south of Sierra Vista. It began testing the Border Hawk in this area. The Minuteman project started up in early 2005. Many of those involved told us they joined because of the images that American Border Patrol was sending out over the internet. Contacted by CNN, Glenn Spencer said he supported the Minuteman project, even though it was a little risky. While covering the Minutemen operation in Arizona, a Washington Times reporter looked up and saw the Border Hawk UAV flying overhead. "What's that?" he asked. When he found out, the Washington Times decided to do a special report on ABP's Border Hawk UAV. Shortly after this story appeared, the FAA grounded the Border Hawk unless it had a chase plane. That ended the Border Hawk program. In May of 2005, American Border Patrol repeated its demonstration of the vulnerability of the border to terrorist acts. In September, ABP initiated a program to use internet-controlled cameras to watch the border. With a play on the word Minutemen, ABP called its border watchers millisecond men. In September, Fox News out of Phoenix paid American Border Patrol a visit to learn of its technical capabilities. Following the grounding of the Border Hawk UAV, American Border Patrol acquired a fixed-wing Cessna Tu-206. It called it the Border Hawk M, or Manned Unmanned Aircraft. The Border Hawk M went to work immediately, using a high-resolution camera, not possible with the small UAV. This was one of many missions flown by Glenn Spencer to document the work of the U.S. Border Patrol. In late October, KOLD-TV asked why more technology wasn't being used on the border. Glenn Spencer told Dan Marys, "We have all of these drugs being smuggled across the border, these millions of people rushing across the border. We have the technology to stop it." If you would like more information about American Border Patrol, send an email to info@americanborderpatrol.com. The powerful camera in the Border Hawk M proved useful in many ways. Here it was used to photograph the Mexican military operating right on the border. They weren't supposed to be there. Although the U.S. Border Patrol had fielded the Predator UAV on the border, American Border Patrol had a difficult time finding them in action. Later, it was learned the FAA had placed restrictions on their use. In March of 2006, American Border Patrol upgraded the Border Hawk M to send live video out over the internet. The aircraft was also equipped with gyro stabilization for its video camera. Using the Border Hawk M and special surveillance electronics, American Border Patrol compiled a large record of individual U.S. Border Patrol enforcement actions. These were compiled into a DVD entitled The U.S. Border Patrol: How It Works and Why It Doesn't. Copies were sent to members of Congress. The Border Hawk M was equipped with a powerful thermal camera. Here it was used to guide a U.S. Border Patrol agent to a group of suspected border intruders that were hiding very close to a Border Patrol camera tower. In November, CNN sent a crew to fly along with American Border Patrol. When the segment aired on the Paul Lizon Show on December 1st, we were shocked. The report was a total misrepresentation of what CNN saw and contained outright lies about ABP. Paul Lizon is no longer with CNN. For qualified groups and individuals, American Border Patrol can arrange a tour of its border ranch. Please call 520-803-7703 for more information. Thanks to a large donation from a wealthy patron, American Border Patrol was able to install a very powerful thermal camera on its ranch. It didn't take long before the camera spotted people crossing the border right at the ranch. President Bush signed the Secure Fence Act of 2006, calling for the construction of 700 miles of double-layered fence along the border. In response, ABP launched Operation Beef to monitor progress of fence construction. The Border Hawk M was a major asset in this effort. At about the same time the new fence was started, DHS began Project 28, an effort to build a virtual fence or electronic fence along 28 miles of border near Sassabee, Arizona. ABP planned to pay close attention to Project 28. It didn't take long for Operation Beef to pay off. Nearly a year after the signing of the Secure Fence Act, ABP could find no more than 2 miles of new double-layered fence. In the Senate debate over amnesty, Senator Dole took note of ABP's work. In the final minutes of the debate, she said, "The Secure Fence Act, 700 miles of fencing to be built. Only 2 miles have been built." The amnesty bill was defeated, no doubt in part because of the work of American Border Patrol's Operation Beef. American Border Patrol challenged reports of good progress on the border. A report in the Tucson Citizen claimed that 103 miles of new fencing had been built in the Tucson sector. ABP countered by saying that only 14.8 miles of fencing had actually been constructed. Operation Beef found positive results on the border as well. Construction of fencing in the Yuma sector, much of it double-layered, helped cut apprehensions of illegal aliens by more than 90%. For qualified individuals and groups, American Border Patrol can provide live demonstrations of the sonic barrier using web. ABP reported that this fencing installed by the DHS was easily climbed by driving a van up to it and jumping on top. The mesh can be cut through. The local rancher said it did little good to stop people. ABP's Operation Vigilance remotely operated thermal camera aided in apprehensions almost every night. And these videos were posted on the internet. ABP aided in a total of 1,500 apprehensions in 6 months. Soon a fence appeared where these people crossed. As reported by the Sierra Vista Herald, ABP directly challenged claims of fence construction by the DHS. The reporter found that the Department of Homeland Security was not telling the truth. In this Herald Review report, American Border Patrol said that the Department of Homeland Security was counting vehicle barriers as fencing, and that this was wrong. The public relations person at Customs and Border Protection actually told the reporter that American Border Patrol was doing a real service. 2009 was an important year for American Border Patrol. As it drew to a close, we began to look more and more at border accountability. In a startling revelation, American Border Patrol reported that evidence from its aerial surveillance showed a strong correlation between border fence construction and drug-related killings in Mexico. ABP's data showed that construction of the fence along the Barry Goldwater bombing range started the Mexican drug war. American Border Patrol's Operation Beef surveillance also found that as fencing was installed at Yuma, apprehensions of illegal aliens dropped dramatically. Much of the Yuma fence is double-layered. In a startling move, the Southern Poverty Law Center sent a representative to Arizona to urge Sheriff Joe Arpaio not to work with American Border Patrol. They claimed it was a hate group. In late 2009, American Border Patrol began to turn its focus on the problem of accountability of the U.S. Border Patrol. Following work by the Government Accountability Office, ABP began searching for ways to measure how well the Border Patrol was doing its job. ABP began testing technology for counting the number of people who actually crossed the border. The sonic barrier uses oil exploration seismic technology to do the job. In February, a TV station from Tucson came to the border to look at the technology ABP was using to count people crossing the border. Failure of the Boeing virtual fence, which American Border Patrol had predicted, led the Washington Times to take a close look at ABP's ideas for measuring border effectiveness. A town hall meeting in Sierra Vista gave Glenn Spencer the chance to brief Senator John McCain on the link between the border fence and the Mexican drug war. McCain gave Spencer plenty of time to make his argument. In June of 2010, the Arizona Republic published a map showing fencing along the border with Mexico. In fine print at the bottom of the map is acknowledgement that the source of the map and fence data was American Border Patrol. There was no mention of ABP in the main story. Later that summer, the Republic sent a Hispanic reporter to ABP's ranch, where he spent an entire weekend. The reporter told Glenn Spencer that the ABP story was one of the most interesting he had ever worked on. The Republic never printed a word of what he learned. In July, Glenn Spencer took a CNN reporter flying along the border to show major crossing points. Afterwards, Spencer explained how he was working on a way to measure border security. Quote, "If you can't measure it, you can't improve it," unquote, Spencer said. A July town hall meeting in Douglas, Arizona, gave Glenn Spencer the opportunity to tell Representative Gabriel Giffords about his ideas for a proper border accounting system. Others present included Representative Benny Thompson, then chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. In early October, ABP's thermal camera recorded an example of diversion tactics. It spotted 50 people headed for the fence from Mexico. As they began crossing, the U.S. Border Patrol was totally engaged apprehending them. A short while later, the camera spotted people throwing what was thought to be drugs over the fence. Because the Border Patrol was tied up, this group of 10 was able to march north with bales of drugs without being apprehended. In 2011, ABP introduces the sonic barrier, which may well prove to be the solution to the border problem. In April, Cronkite News Service came to the ranch to see a demonstration of the sonic barrier. They were impressed and gave an excellent report. Claims by the head of the U.S. Border Patrol of the effectiveness of the National Guard were challenged by American Border Patrol. Its surveillance of Guard outposts spotted serious problems that greatly reduced their effectiveness. In November, Glenn Spencer made a formal presentation at the GovSec West Conference in Phoenix, in which he gave a step-by-step approach for securing the border. In 2012, the mainstream media began to look at ABP's border solutions. Glenn Spencer and Mike King presented the concept of the sonic barrier to an Arizona State Senate Committee on the Border. The presentation included a live demonstration of the system using remote cameras that showed the system in operation on the border 180 miles away. The committee was very impressed. The sonic barrier demonstration for the Arizona Senate Committee made front-page news in the Sunday Sierra Vista Herald. In April, CNN paid a visit to the American Border Patrol Ranch, the first mainstream media to do so for years. The report aired on Wolf Blitzer's Situation Room and was very fair. New fencing has forced smugglers to turn to ultralight aircraft that can't be seen by radar. In a series of tests, the sonic barrier proved it could detect and identify this type of aircraft. Mike Gallagher brought his popular radio show to ABP's ranch in June. After spending a night on the border, Gallagher broadcast for 3 hours, interviewing Glenn Spencer and others. He personally witnessed the sonic barrier as it detected an ultralight aircraft crossing the border. For the 5th year in a row, American Border Patrol has placed flags on the border to commemorate Independence Day. This year, 10,000 flags spelled out "Save the United States." These flags were added to last year's sign that said "Secure the Border." American Border Patrol is the only organization in the United States that uses technology to tell the border story from the border, that tests new technology that can solve the problem, that has a history of 10 years of success, that has developed a comprehensive approach to border security that can be implemented. If you think that American Border Patrol is on the right track and has a good history of performance, there's a way you can help. ABP relies strictly on donations from individuals. It receives no government funds, and there are no large foundations, normally liberal. But it uses funds for everything like fuel for the airplanes, electricity for the cameras, and even food for the workers. If you want to help, send a tax-deductible donation to American Border Patrol, 2160 East Fry Boulevard, number 426, Sierra Vista 85635, or log on to AmericanBorderPatrol.com.